www.lawmanguitars.com. Hey, you know what? I am so excited because the first guitar that we're doing today is just a fabulous guitar that I found here in Des Moines. This is a 1994 Gibson guitar. It is a 1994 100th anniversary guitar. It is also a 1994 Gibson Gospel guitar. So this thing is really cool. When I got it, I looked in the inside. It's got the Gibson 100th years, 1894 to 1994, and this guitar commemorated that year for the Gospel guitar. Now, the Gospel guitars have been reissued a couple times. They did them back in 1972 to 79 was the first time. Actually, that was a reissue. I think that was the original Gospel guitars. Those weren't the reissues. That was the original one. They started in 1972, and for 7 years, they made the Gospel guitar. And I've never seen an old one. I've seen a few of the newer ones, of which this one is. They reissued them in 1992 through 1997. And this one happens to be a 1994, so it's kind of right in between in there. And, you know, I started figuring out, it's like, you know, when I think of vintage guitars, you know, I kind of associate it with vintage cars. And I'm kind of an old guy, you know, so a vintage car to me is like something from the 50s or the 60s or, you know, maybe 70s. But I thought, what does everybody else consider to be vintage? So I looked it up. I Googled vintage. Do you realize that vintage now is 30 years? Which kind of surprised me, but I kept saying, I said, you know, I think maybe 70s and 80s guitars are vintage. And then I started thinking, are some 90s guitars vintage? Well, it turns out 1994 is exactly 30 years old. So not only do we have a 1994 Gibson Gospel 100th anniversary guitar, we have a vintage 1994 Gibson Gospel 100th anniversary guitar. So there you go. There's everything I can tell you about the 1994 Gospel guitars. Now, they are, of course, USA made in Bozeman, Montana. They have a solid spruce top, and because it's vintage, it's starting to get some finish crazing. Now, I want to point out again, to especially guys that don't know vintage guitars, finish crazing is something that we want to see. They spray these in a very thin coating of nitrocellulose lacquer, and because of humidity changes and just the movement of the wood, you know, it's so thin, they'll start to finish craze, which means that finish actually cracks a little bit. Now, does it crack all the way through? No. Can you feel it? Yeah, you can a little bit. But that's something that Gibson guitars are known for, and a lot of other vintage guitars have it. And whenever they have it, I try to point it out because it's something a lot of people don't know. They go, oh, my guitar's cracked. No, it's not. And you do not want to try to fix those. Leave them alone. They're supposed to be there. It's got a rosewood tailpiece, rosewood neck. It's got this really cool old style, because of the 100th anniversary, they did this old style Gibson logo with the little medallion in there, which I thought was really cool. It's got the mint green keystone tuner buttons on it, which also makes it look a little more vintage. But and it's got a really pretty mahogany. That is really a light-colored mahogany. That's not maple. That is mahogany. Wow. A really pretty mahogany back and sides and neck on it. The neck is dead straight. The angle is fabulous. But the other thing I wanted to point out is it's got an arched back, which you don't normally see in these dreadnought guitars. This one has an arched back, which actually adds to its projection of the guitar. This guitar really is powerful. I mean, it is a cannon for a Gibson guitar. I play Gibson guitars as my go-to guitars in my worship work that I do on weekends. And so I know Gibson guitars. This one is definitely much louder than my J45, my J50. And I think that has a lot to do with the arched back. They're 15 3/4 inch wide at the bout, which is a little bit wider too than your standard dreads. Has a 1 3/4 inch nut, which is a little wider than your 11/16, which I'm more used to. And it has a 25 1/4 inch scale neck. From here to here is 25 1/4 inches, and from here to here is 25 1/4 inches. It looks longer that way, doesn't it? But that's how a scale neck works. They have to be the same distance from the nut to the 12th fret to your bridge saddle. Those have to be the same or the guitar will never tune. But anyway, let's hear how this beauty sounds, shall we? You know what? I could play this guitar. I could play this guitar all night. I love this guitar. It is, Brian and I were just talking about it. He says, I've never had my hands on a Gospel. I said, well, I played some, but I've never had a chance to buy one. And I've always loved them. I really thought they were really, really cool. And especially doing the music that I do, I thought, I ought to have a gospel guitar. Maybe this one is it. Maybe I'll never sell it. You better grab it quick or I might decide to keep it. It's fabulous. It's beautiful. No cracks. The bridge is on there super nice and tight. We always check those right away, make sure they're good. The frets are in really good shape. There's a few divots in those top cowboy cord frets, but nothing that's unusual wear on them. They're original frets, of course. Truss rod works. We always check that also as well. Pickguards on there nice and tight. It's just a fabulous, fabulous guitar. And I'm really happy to say I also got the original case. Now, it doesn't say Gibson Gospel on it. It says Gibson Montana. Fine acoustic guitars. So I looked, and that logo is the same one that's on that headstock. So I thought, why didn't they have the Gospel? But I looked at a couple other Gospels that were out there, and they had exactly the same case. So I guess this is the case they came in. No reason to think they changed it. It's definitely from that era. It has been around. So obviously the person who had this guitar definitely traveled with it, and it shows. But, it's a hard shell case. It's supposed to be well traveled in. And protecting that guitar. Every time I open this case, I just go, I mean, look at this. I mean, have you ever seen that? It is so doggone cool. This royal purple plush interior is just absolutely beautiful. And I don't remember any other Gibson guitars having this that I can think of that I've ever had. I mean, I've had some royal purple in some cases, but in a Gibson case, this is just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Accessory boxes here. What's this in here? Oh, look at here. They've even left their Gibson instrument humidifier. That's interesting. You get that. Also, I'm happy to say we got Case Candy. We got the pre-packed checklist that has everything on there. It's got the serial number correct, so it's not just for your records. They actually, that's your warranty card. Oh, that's cool. Never filled out. What is this? This is the owner's manual. Tells you how to take care of your guitar in case you don't know how to take care of a guitar by now. Okay, I'm sure you all do. But check out this case. Isn't it beautiful? You get this gorgeous, gorgeous Gibson case that comes with that 1994 Gibson Gospel guitar. It's just fabulous. I mean, it's just a fabulous, fabulous guitar. Happy I got to demo it before somebody grabbed it. I'm sure it's probably not going to last long. They're not super expensive Gibsons, I'm happy to say. So, hey, if you've been looking for a Gibson Dread, that one is hard to pass by. Grab it. So, hey, while you're here on our YouTube channel, why don't you hit that subscribe button? We were over 7,500 last month. Did we go over 76 yet, Brian? Brian's going to check, yeah. And while he's checking, why don't you hit that subscribe button and be one of the club members, okay? What happens when you join the subscribing to the Lawman Guitars YouTube channel? You get more YouTube stuff from Lawman. You don't get sold a bunch of stuff. I know people do that kind of things. We don't do that. I don't even know how to do that. So the only thing that will happen is next month you will be able to know that Lawman has 5 more demos for you out there. So hey, once you do that, you can go to our webpage, www.lawmanguitars.com, which takes you to our reverb page, which is where all our guitars, and by the way, parts, vintage parts. We are jammed with vintage parts. I think we have over 200 vintage parts right now. There might even be 300 vintage parts that we have listed. Very unique parts. I mean, if we have guitars that we just can't fix, we pull the parts off and we share them for people looking for a tuner, looking for a bridge, looking for a pickguard, looking for a neck. We got all kinds of vintage parts. So why don't you check us out and save us as a favorite reverb seller as well, because whenever we get a new listing, then you're going to know. You don't have to look for us, okay? And we always are listing new stuff. We don't mess around. We don't try to sell the same stuff 6 months from now. Although some guitars do last a while, I will grant you that, but we are constantly buying and selling guitars, parts, amps, gear, straps, string. I don't sell strings. Okay, but we sell everything else. So check us out at www.lawmanguitars.com. If you can't find us somewhere, just Google Lawman Guitars. I promise something will pop up. We've got YouTube, we've got Facebook, we got LinkedIn, we got Instagram, we got all the stuff, all with Lawman Guitars. We appreciate you watching our stuff. We appreciate to know that there's somebody out there looking at some of these things, because we work hard to do these videos every month. So thank you for watching, and hey, hope to see you again next month. Thanks a lot for watching.